Take a few moments to settle. Let your thoughts settle. Let your heart rate settle. Let your breath just be even and smooth. Noticing your inhale and your exhale. Bringing your full attention to your mat, to your body. And as you start to settle here, I want you to think about something in your life that you see as an obstacle. Oftentimes, the things we think of as obstacles are actually our path forward. They're lessons we need to learn. So I invite you to think about a recent obstacle and what lesson might be underneath that obstacle. When we come to our mat, we face a lot of obstacles during our practice as we make shapes with our body. We get into positions that may seem uncomfortable. But if we come back to our breath, we realize that the situation can be a little less uncomfortable, a little less tense. When you find the power within, if you're seated, come to lying on your back. Take a moment here. I want you to set your intention for how you might face that obstacle. Maybe it's cultivating an inner peace to deal with the situation. Everyone's different. Everyone's intentions are their own. See how you can use that intention in all things you do here on your mat. Draw your knees in towards your chest. Give yourself a nice little hug here. Focus on your breath. Bring your hands to your knees. Slowly begin to make circles with your knees in one direction, rocking side to side on your hips. Move with your breath. And rotate in the opposite direction. And come back to stillness. Extend your legs straight overhead. Bring your hands down by your hips. Slowly begin to point and flex your toes and feet. Take a few breaths here. And come back to stillness. Begin to rotate your ankles in one direction and the opposite direction. And find stillness. Hug your right knee in towards your chest. Extend your left leg out long. Take a breath here. Release your hands down by your hips. Lower your right foot to the mat. Keep the sole of your foot on the mat, knee pointing towards the sky. Take a breath here. Lift your left arm overhead. Find length from your fingertips to your toes on the left side. Keeping your right foot rooted, slowly begin to walk your left foot and left hand over to the right, finding a stretch in your left side body. If you feel any pain in your left shoulder, just lower your hand to your hip and still find a side body stretch. Take a few breaths here. Slowly come back to center. Take a breath. Hug both knees in towards your chest. Release your hands down by your hips. Extend both feet overhead. Take a breath. Slowly begin to lower your feet out to the sides, making a V with your legs. Go as far as you would like until you find a nice inner thigh stretch. You may place your hands on the outside of your thighs like little kickstands. Or you can just let the weight of your legs pull apart. Take a few breaths. Slowly close your legs together. Hug your left knee in towards your chest. Let your right leg go long. Take a breath. Place your left foot on the mat, knee bent. Slowly lift that right arm overhead. Find length from your fingertips to your toes on the right side. And slowly walk your right foot over to the left. Let your right hand come over towards the left. Finding that right side bend stretch. Take one more breath here and return to center. Hug both knees in towards your chest. Take one more pause here. And in whatever way works for you, make your way up to a tabletop position. Spread your fingers wide. Let your wrists come in line with your shoulders. Knees are in line with your hips. Find a nice flat back here. Come back to your breath. And slowly turn and look over towards your right hip. Come back to center and look over towards your left hip. And back to center. Gaze over towards your right. Back to center. Over towards your left. And back to center. And pause here. Slowly walk your hands out in front of you. Lower your forehead or your chin to the mat. Come into puppy dog pose. Take a few breaths here. Slowly walk your hands back in, lift yourself up, come back to tabletop. Take a breath. Lower your forearms down to the mat, coming onto your elbows, palms face down. Tuck your toes under. Take a breath here. Slowly begin to lift your knees off the mat, lift your hips up, come in to dolphin. Take a breath here in dolphin. This can be a challenging pose. Where can you find more ease here? Maybe it's slightly bending your knees. Take a few breaths. Press down through your palms. Lower your knees to the mat. Separate your knees wide. Untuck your toes. Bring your big toes together. Sink your hips back. Let your forehead rest on the mat. Take a pause here in child's pose. Slowly make your way back to tabletop. Spread your fingers wide. Tuck your toes under. Lift your hips up and back. Come in to down dog. Take a breath here. Take a moment to explore your dog. Maybe pedal your feet. Maybe stay in stillness. Inhale, lift your right leg high in the air. Exhale, step your right foot to the top of your mat. Bend your left knee, step your left foot up to meet your right, and fold forward. Inhale, hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, circle sweep arms to sky. Exhale, bring your hands to heart center. Take a breath here. Inhale, reach your arms overhead. Exhale, swan dive forward. Inhale, hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, plant your palms, step your right foot back, come into low lunge. Step your left foot back, come into high plank. You may lower your knees if you'd like. Engage your core, press down through your palms. Let your shoulders melt away from each other. Slowly lower all the way down to your belly. Untuck your toes. Press down through the tops of your feet. Lift your heart off the mat. Come into cobra. Lower your heart down. Tuck your toes under. Press back to down dog. Take a breath here. Inhale, reach your left leg high in the air. Exhale, step your left foot to the top of your mat. Bend your right knee, step your right foot up to meet your left. Fold forward. Inhale, hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, circle sweep arms to sky. Exhale, bring your hands to heart center. Take a breath. Inhale, lift your arms overhead. Exhale, swan dive forward. Inhale, hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, plant your palms, step your left foot back, come into low lunge. Step your right foot back, come into high plank. You may lower your knees, make any adjustments you need, and lower down. Untuck your toes, come into cobra. Press down through the tops of your feet. Lift your heart off the mat. Lower your heart down. Tuck your toes under. Press back to down dog. Take a breath here. Inhale, lift your right leg high in the air. Exhale, step your right foot to the top of your mat. Take a pause here in low lunge. Press down through your right foot. Slowly begin to rise up to high lunge. Give your left knee a slight bend. Tuck your tailbone under. Pull your belly in and up. Let your shoulders melt away from your ears. Reach those fingertips high in the air. Take a breath here. Anchor your left heel down. Sink into your right knee. Lower your arms down to a T. Gaze over your right fingertips. Find warrior two. Make sure your knee is tracking over your second toe. Take a breath here. Flip your front palm. Slowly begin to lift that right arm overhead. Come into reverse warrior. Gaze up over your right fingertips. Slowly come back to warrior two. Straighten your right leg. Keep a slight bend in your knee, hinged forward. Lower your right hand down to your shin, the mat, or a block. Left arm extends overhead. Stack your shoulders, open through your heart. Find your triangle and breathe. Slowly bend into your right knee. Press down through your right foot. Slowly rise back up to warrior two. Stay for a pause here. Begin to straighten that right leg again. Turn your right toes towards the left. Bring your hands to your hips. Take a breath here. Slightly turn your toes in towards each other. Your heels are slightly out. Keep a nice bend in your knees. Hands can stay at your hips. Take a breath here. Extend your arms out to a T, palms face forward. Keeping a very nice flat back. Hinge at your hips. Keep your back nice and straight. Once you get to parallel, your back should be flat. Lower all the way down till your crown is facing towards the floor, and lower your hands down. Coming into a wide leg forward fold. Take a breath here. Keep your left hand on the mat. Bring your right hand to your hip. Slowly begin to turn and look over your right shoulder, bringing your torso along for the ride. You can keep your hand here on your hip or extend it overhead. Gaze up over your right shoulder. Finding a nice twist here. Take a breath. Slowly lower that right hand down. Bring your gaze down towards your hands. Bring that left hand to your hip. Slowly begin to turn over towards the left. Gaze up over your shoulder. You can keep your hand on your hip or extend that left arm overhead. Finding a nice twist here. Remembering to keep a nice bend in your knees. Take a breath. And slowly lower that left hand down. Return your gaze to your palms. Take a breath. Fold forward. Bring your hands to your hips, keeping that nice flat back. See if you can lift all the way back up to standing. Take a breath here. Turn your right toes towards the top of your mat. Your stance might have widened, so you might want to wiggle that left foot back closer in. Bend into your right knee. Lift your arms out to a T. Come back to your warrior two. Take a breath here. Windmill your hands down to frame your front foot. Spin off your back heel. Press down through your palms. Step back to high plank. You can press right back to down dog, or you can move through your flow. Lowering down, coming in to cobra or up dog, and meeting back in down dog. Take a breath here. Inhale, lift your left leg high in the air. Exhale, step your left foot to the top of your mat. Take a pause here in low lunge. Press down through your left foot. Slowly rise up to high lunge. Bend your right knee. Square your hips to the top of the mat. Let those shoulders melt away from your ears. Take a breath. Anchor your right heel down. Sink into your left knee. Lower your arms down to a T. Check in here with your alignment. Make sure your knee is pushing out towards your pinky toe, not dragging in. We want to protect our knee. Take a breath. Flip your front palm. Slowly reverse your warrior. Take a breath here. Slowly begin to rise back up to warrior two. Slowly straighten your left leg, keeping that slight bend in your left knee. Hinge forward. Lower your left hand to your shin, the mat, or a block. Right arm extends overhead, settling into your triangle pose. Take a breath. Slowly begin to bend your left knee. Press down through your left foot. Slowly rise back up to warrior two. Take a breath here. Begin to straighten your left leg. Turn your left toes towards the right. Coming back into that wide leg stance. This time, we're going to bring our heels in and our toes are going to point out wide. Keeping your hands at your hips for a moment, find your breath. Slowly begin to lower your hips, coming in to a goddess leg stance. Take a breath here, keeping your back nice and flat. You can keep your hands here at your hips or lift your arms up to goalposts. Take a breath here in goddess. As you feel the heat build in your legs, take that as your obstacle. Use your intention to breathe through it. What is the lesson here? Patience, persistence. Bring your hands to your hips. Slowly begin to straighten your legs. Take a breath. Turn your left toes towards the top of your mat. Bend into your left knee. Again, make any adjustments to your stance you need and come back to your warrior two. Gaze over your fingertips. Slowly windmill your hands down to frame your front foot. Spin off your back heel. Press down through your palms. Step back to plank. You may press right back to down dog or move through your flow. Lowering down, coming in to cobra or up dog, and pressing back to down dog. Take a breath here. Inhale, lift your right leg high in the air. Exhale, step your right foot to the top of your mat. Bend your left knee, step your left foot up to meet your right, and fold forward. Inhale, hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, circle sweep arms to sky. Exhale, bring your hands to heart center. Take a breath here. Separate your feet to hip distance. Maybe close your eyes for a moment. Notice your breath. In yoga, we practice warrior poses. And just like the warrior surveys the battlefield to make their action plan, take your warrior poses. Gaze out at your obstacle and take it head on. Push through, learn your lesson, come back to your breath. Shift your weight to your right foot. Slowly draw your left knee in towards your chest. Take a pause here. You may stay here or move into warrior three. Hinging forward, kicking that left foot behind you. Toes and knee point towards the mat. Slowly let your arms stretch out in front of you, coming in line with your ears. Take a few breaths. Be the warrior. Face your obstacle head on. Slowly begin to rise back up. Lower your left foot to the mat. Lower your hands down by your hips. Come back to mountain. Take a breath here. Inhale, lift your arms overhead. Exhale, swan dive forward. Inhale, hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, plant your palms, step back to plank. You may press right back to down dog or move through your flow. Lowering down, coming into cobra or up dog, and pressing back to down dog. Take a breath here. Inhale, reach your left leg high in the air. Exhale, step your left foot to the top of the mat. Bend your right knee, step your right foot up to meet your left, and fold forward. Inhale, hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, circle sweep arms to sky. Exhale, bring your hands to heart center. Take a breath here. Separate your feet to hip distance. Shift your weight into your left foot. Slowly draw that right knee in towards your chest. You may stay here or press down through your left foot as you slowly hinge forward. Kick your right foot behind you, coming into warrior three. Extend your arms out in front of you, finding that nice flat back as you reach forward through your fingertips. Keep your foot nice and flexed. Take a few breaths here. Notice the shake. Find your inner strength and breathe. Slowly rise up. Lower your right foot to the mat. Lower your hands by your hips. Find mountain. Take a breath. Inhale, reach your arms overhead. Exhale, swan dive forward. Inhale, hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, Plant your palms, step back to plank. You may press right back to down dog or move through your flow, lowering down, coming into cobra or up dog, and pressing back to down dog. Take a breath here. Push forward to plank. Take a breath and lower all the way down to your belly. Stack your hands on top of each other. Find a rest here in crocodile. Let your forehead rest on your hands. Come back to your breath. Take a few moments here in this mini pause. Notice your inner thoughts. Notice your breath. Notice your body. Extend your arms straight out in front of you, palms face down. Let your forehead rest on the mat for a moment. Take a breath here. Slowly roll on to your right side, coming completely onto your right side. Your hips are stacked, your shoulders are stacked. Your left hand can just rest on your side for a moment. Your head is resting on your upper arm. Take a moment here. Let your left knee bend and come out in front of you, just resting on the mat, like you're in a sleepy pose. Take a breath here. Slowly begin to lift and lower your right leg, lifting it up, lowering it down, up and down, up and down. Lift it up again, keep it up, begin to wag your tail, pushing it back and forth, kicking back and forth like you're swimming. Move with that for a few breaths. And then kick that leg back as far back as you can until it starts to bend. Bring your heel in towards your glute. Reach your left hand around, grab for the top of your foot. Take a rest here for a moment. Find that quad stretch. Slowly begin to straighten your left leg. Come up onto the edge of your foot as you straighten your leg. Again, take a pause here. And then slowly bring that right arm out to the side and lower your left shoulder towards the mat, finding a nice twist here. Take a few breaths. Stay with me here for 3 more deep breaths. Slowly release your right foot. Come back to that sleepy position. Bring your right arm back overhead. Make a nice pillow for your head. Take a breath here. That left leg is out in front of you. Stack your left leg on top of your right. Lower onto your belly. Extend your left arm out in front of you. Forehead rests on the mat. Take a pause here. Slowly roll onto your left side. Stack your hips, stack your shoulders. Right arm rests on your hip. Take a breath here for a moment. Notice if you're feeling resistance to this pose. What can you learn there? Lower your right knee to the mat. Coming back into that sleepy pose. Notice your breath, and then slowly begin to lift and lower your left leg. Lifting it up, lowering it down. Move with your breath. And when you lift it again, keep it lifted and go ahead and kick your foot back and forth. Kick that foot back as far as you can until it starts to bend. Reach your right hand and grab for the top of your left foot, finding that quad stretch. Take a breath here. Slowly begin to straighten your right leg, coming onto the inside of your foot. Take a breath here. Slowly begin to slide your right arm out to the side as you lower to your left, finding a nice twist here. Feel free to make any adjustments you need to feel comfortable here. Maybe that's just coming back to a crocodile position. Take a few breaths. Release your left foot. Let it come back out long. Return to your sleepy position, bringing your left arm under your head. Your knee is bent. Take a breath here. Straighten your right leg. Stack your legs on top of each other. Very slowly make your way onto your belly, coming back to your crocodile pose for a moment. Place your hands under your shoulders. Press yourself back to child's pose. Taking a wide leg child's pose, or your knees can be touching. Find what works for you. Take a few deep breaths here. Slowly make your way back up to tabletop. Pausing here for a breath. Make your way onto your seat. Knees are pointing towards the ceiling. Feet are flat on the mat. Take a moment to adjust here. We're going to work hard for one more pose, and then we're going to come down to our backs. So we're going to move into boat pose. So there's a few options to take for this pose. You can Drop your shoulders back, engage your core, place your hands behind your hamstrings, and stay here. You can stay here and lift your feet off the mat, bringing your shins parallel to the mat. You can stay here or extend your arms straight out, coming into boat. You also have the option to completely straighten your legs. Find what works for you and stay with me for 3 deep breaths. Slowly begin to lower your feet to the mat. Bring your hands behind your hamstrings. Slowly roll all the way down to supine. Allow yourself a moment to relax here. Find your breath. Take a moment to think about the pose you would like to do next. You can take a restorative bridge, you can take a regular bridge, or you may move into wheel if that is in your practice. Begin to walk your heels in towards your glutes. Your ankles are in line with your knees. Take a moment here. Slowly begin to lift your hips off the mat. Tighten your glutes. Find your breath. You may keep your hands flat on the mat or interlace your fingers. Walk your shoulder blades together and open through your heart. Wherever you are, be mindful of your neck. Keep it nice and long. Take a few breaths. Stay with me for 3 more cycles of breath. Slowly begin to make your way back onto your back, returning your hips to the mat. Draw your knees in towards your chest. Give yourself a nice hug. Take a breath. Release your hands down by your hips. Slowly extend your feet overhead, coming into legs up the wall. You may stay here or move into the inversion of your choice. Maybe there's an inversion that feels like a challenge or an obstacle for you, and you want to see if you can get there. Take this opportunity. Use the lessons you've taken from the mat. Find your inversion. Conquer your goals. Take a few more breaths. In whatever pose you find yourself in. Sometimes the biggest obstacle is just getting on our mat. Slowly come out of your inversion. Hug your knees into your chest. Take a breath here. Lower your arms out to a T. Slowly drop your knees over towards the left. Find your supine twist here. You may gaze overhead or turn and look over your right fingertips. Take a few deep breaths. Slowly draw your knees back to center. Let your knees come over towards the right, finding your twist, gazing overhead or over your left fingertips. Slowly draw your knees back to center. Give yourself a nice hug. Maybe stay in stillness. Maybe rock side to side. Take a moment. Move in any way that you need to prepare your body for relaxation. A few moments to do exactly as you need. And when you're ready, make your way into your comfortable position and come into Shavasana. Take a few moments to settle here. You focused on your intention. You focused on your obstacle. Sometimes there's power in the pause, in the restoration, in the quiet. Take this time to let go. Let your worries melt away. Just breathe and be. You've done all you can. Now is the time for stillness and pause. Slowly begin to deepen your breath. Invite movement into your body. Maybe wiggle your fingers and your toes. Maybe come into a big morning stretch or hug your knees into your chest. When you're ready, roll on to one side. Take a pause here. Very slowly make your way back to your seat. Close your eyes. Bring your hands to heart center. The obstacle is the path. A positive mindset is so important when we're facing obstacles. I invite you to take your intention in facing your obstacles off the mat and into the world. There can be peace in chaos. There's a lesson in each obstacle. If only you have the courage to look, to listen. Take a moment to honor yourself for showing up for your practice. Thank you very much for sharing your practice with me. Namaste.